Now we're going to learn how to use the calculator to complete a chi-squared test. A little bit of a disclaimer for you before you begin. If you've never done chi-squared testing, if you have no clue what a chi-squared test is and you've just never done anything having to do with it, you may want to start off with the video I have linked below explaining the big picture of the chi-squared test. If you know what you're doing but you just want to know how to do it faster in the TI-84, this video is for you. Okay, so now that you know you belong here and you're watching this video, let's talk about how to complete this problem. A survey was done to see if one's love for math is independent or dependent on whether or not they take physics. And these are the results obtained. So for example, 18 people love math and they take physics. 13 people love math but they don't take physics. So on and so forth. So we have a null hypothesis here, and our null hypothesis states that whether or not the student takes physics and his feelings for math are totally independent of each other. They do not affect each other. So, in order to test this, we're going to have to plug in our numbers into the calculator. To plug our numbers in, we have to use our matrix feature. So go to Second, Matrix, which is this button here. We're going to edit our matrix A. All right, so right now it's set for nothing. I've never used this before, so it's set with no numbers in here. And our table is 1 by 1. I would like to have 3 rows and 2 columns. So I'm going to put 3 by 2, 3 rows, 2 columns. All I did was replace the 1 with a 3 and replace the other one with a 2. And it automatically updates the size of our matrix. Now I can replace those zeros with the numbers in my table. So we have an 18, a 13, an 8, a 14, a 5 and a 19. Okay, so now that all my numbers are in, I am ready to complete the chi-squared test. And this is going to blow your mind how quickly this will go. First, we need to go to Stat, as we have done several times before. We're completing a chi-squared test, so we go across to Tests. Now we have to scroll down to chi-squared test, and it's pretty far down. I think it's C. There we go. So we have chi-squared test here. Press enter. Or observed values were entered into A, or expected values will be updated in B, and all we have to do is press calculate. And it tells us our chi-squared statistic, which is 7.99 in this case. Now, as you may recall, we have a rule that if the chi-squared calculated value is bigger than the critical value, we reject the null hypothesis, also known as HO. If the chi-squared calculated value is bigger than the critical value, we reject the null hypothesis. Now, our chi-squared value that we calculated is 7.99, and that is bigger than the critical value provided, which was 5.991. So let's just call it the critical. The critical value was 5.991. It's bigger, so we reject the null hypothesis. What does that mean? We reject the null hypothesis. Well, the null hypothesis up here states that the feelings for math are independent of whether or not someone takes physics. We're rejecting that. Therefore, the null hypothesis is not true. So we can now say whether or not a student takes physics and his feelings for math are dependent on each other. So we rejected our null hypothesis. The independent is rejected, therefore it is dependent. These two things are dependent.